Hey everyone, welcome back. We are covering Shogun episode 6 with the boys, Sam, Bizzy, and Ronin. We're back. How are you guys doing? How is
I'm
this? How did you guys
excited.
feel about this
Yo,
episode?
this show. This show don't stop, can't stop, won't stop. Oh,
Was it better
honestly,
or worse than episode 5? We talked a
I,
lot about episode 5. How
I've
do we feel
been
about episode
I've
6?
been gushing this show up a lot, and I want to say this. Like, I mean this straight up. Like, I think this episode was great, but I don't think it was better than 5.
I agree.
And I
I,
think
I
this is the
concur.
first episode that's kind of like, again, I don't want to use the word declined because you can't with a show like this. Like, it's been amazing, but I do think it was a little bit of a step down from episode 5. But again, by no means does that make that a bad episode. It just, like, instead
Yeah,
of an A plus, it's an A. Like, it doesn't make it a bad episode, but it was a step down considering how we've been just accelerating with each and
yeah,
every episode.
I think one way to put it from my perspective, and I don't know if it's okay if I can go into this like this, is that we took a point of view that we had not bothered checking on for a while now. And although intriguing and engaging, we were such on a roller coaster with this band of group of characters that we've been with since episode 1 that when we took with this shift, I'm like, okay, I haven't seen this before. But I miss those folks, and are they okay now? That's how much devotion we've had with them. So it's an intriguing episode nonetheless, and but I echo the sentiments. But
yeah,
still, I put this show up there with any of the shows this year thus far, up there.
yeah, yeah. I mean, for me, I do think that 5 was like a superior episode. But I think the thing I look at it is like we have characters in this that I mean really kind of just got introduced a little bit at the end of the last episode, and they are really kind of getting flushed out in this episode. Whereas most of the characters we know, we've had 5 episodes to get them flushed out. Some characters we didn't start liking until recent episodes. So it's kind of like we're getting a full flashback, getting an understanding of one of our main characters, and then another character that's been introduced is kind of like the puppet master, so to speak. And we still haven't completely got that all the way fleshed out, even by the end of this episode. So I think it's like it's a discovery episode. But there are some really amazing things and feats that they do in this episode. I think it really sets up something really great for the next episode. But I
Mhm.
do think that the 5th episode is superior, but this is still a great episode to me.
Yeah, I think anytime you have an episode where flashbacks are the primary storytelling driving method, it can be hit or miss. I think for the most part this worked. I think I was like there's like so many light bulb moments. I was like, oh, and this. Like we get to figure out the connections between Mariko and Toranaga and now this character that we're starting to learn more about, the heir's mother, Lady Ochiba. We meet her. We see immediately. We meet her in the last at the end of the last episode, or we see or a scene of her at the end of the last episode, and immediately I was like, Cersei, and she gives those vibes off. In this episode, especially. What are you guys' thoughts on her? The fact that we learned that she, was young, had to basically she was the old Tycho's or the current Tycho, the one that is dead and left the 5 regions. She was his concubine because he couldn't conceive a male heir with anyone, so she was his concubine. Finally produced the only male heir, so that gave her so much power and so much authority because of that. And we see her wielding it with the regents and Ishido. So what do you guys think about Lady Ochiba?
I think she's a phenomenal badass character. Like, I mean, the last thing I expected, again, specifically because of the time we're in and the culture and just everything, I'm not too familiar with it all. So like when we have these dudes who are fighting over power and then all of a sudden we have this woman walk in and she's the big dog, like she's the one who's calling all the shots. Like, I think that was the coolest thing ever. You know what I'm saying? Like, she just kind of came out of nowhere and was straight up like, all right, let me know what's up. Like, let me know what's going on. And I think that her power kind of extended into this episode, and just knowing and just, I don't know, the way she carries herself. I think the actress is doing a phenomenal job, but I think I'm really excited to see where the character goes. This episode, I think, kind of laid down a little bit of it, but I am truly nervous to see how the next few episodes are going to play out, because she's dangerous, and it kind of scares me. It does.
Yeah, what's weird is that I empathize with her. I feel for her because we see what she had to go through and the way there's this great moment where she talks about, you have no idea what I had to go through just to get the kid and be part of this thing now, this bigger world now. And what's fascinating is that, like, okay, I feel for what she went through, but I'm like, why are you in cahoots with these folks? Why are you doing this? And this is the same person that told a Catholic, I think it was a Catholic priest, to shove his religion up his ass. And I was like, whoa. And yet we get little details of why she is this way, why she's aligned with Shido, I think. And I'm very now. Thankfully for this episode, I'm intrigued to see, okay, where is that angle coming from? Because we do see that there's history not just between her and Toranaga, but between her and Mariko, and how that went about. And so it's again another side of women in this time period and how their presence is felt. Doesn't matter where your ranking is at, where your statue, or what level you're at, you're felt, especially from an audience point of view. I'm be like, whoa, where is that coming from, and where will that potentially go?
Yeah, for me, it was interesting because I'm trying to figure out how we still haven't gotten the pieces yet of how she got to where she completely is. The most interesting parts is when she's with her son, when they did the play, and when she's just commanding a room with just being there, and she's not putting up for anybody. But then when she's with her son and she was just kind of like behind him and just reminiscing and thinking, it's just so fascinating, their approach to her, that I really need to get that other piece, like between the point where she's trying to conceive with this man and she's put into this vice, so to speak. What are certain things that she had to kind of pull away from her soul? And I think that for her as a character, it makes her so compelling, but at the same time, I don't know what her capability is. I don't know what she's willing to do. And I have all these different questions in less than 2 episodes. And I don't know how to feel about it. That like we just got really introduced to her for real. Like at the end of this, it's like, oh wow, she's holding all the cards. And now we're seeing people are threatened by that. And at the same time, no one can control her. I think that's the most interesting thing. Nobody has any kind of control over her at all. I mean, you could say the child is, her control or her vice, but really nobody has any kind of control over her at all. And a lot of people don't even know how much influence she really has. The people up top know, but other people on the ground don't really understand it. So I think that they did a really good job, like progressing her as a character. And I think at the same time, it complements Mariko, because how do they have this great friendship and love for each other, and then all of a sudden, like this spiral happens to the point that I think Mariko, like somebody asked about the woman, she's like, I haven't seen this woman, I don't know how long, and she wouldn't want to see me. And it's like, it's just rough. It's really rough, but I can't wait to see more pieces of the thread between their relationship and then where the lady's gonna go.
Yeah, we learned that Uchiba has a specific hatred for Toranaga because she believes that he is she said, Mariko's dad may have, swung the blade, but it was Toranaga who pulled the strings of her father. Her father was the original Taiko that died, that was killed by Mariko's father. So we learned that connection between the two. So that would spell a little bit of bad blood when one dad kills the other dad. I'd probably have some issues with you too. But she brings Toranaga in, which makes it so interesting. It's giving more Game of Thrones references, but it's giving Toranaga is this Viserys, or what was it? The spider, the guy who had all the whispers and he had his little network. I feel like Toranaga.
Oh, Viserys.
Yeah, Viserys. Yeah,
Varys was it?
Varys. Yeah, Viserys is the Targaryen. Yeah,
I'm tripping.
Yeah. No. I made the mistake first, but yeah, it's giving like he has his own network. He knows what's going on. The fact that he could possibly, and I fully believe her. And when she says Toranaga behind it, I'm like, she's probably correct, because that man knows things that everyone else doesn't know. He's constantly ahead, and they're already suspicious. Like the kids, what the era is 7, 8, I don't know. So at this point, they've been suspecting him for years, and now it's all coming into a head. We're seeing just the aftermath of it. Like this has been coming to a head for years. So I think it's interesting to see Ochiba like yet another Game of Thrones reference, like very Cersei Tommen vibes. Like she's this like, you know, scheming woman who has been put in a position, an unfortunate position of like having to have sex with a 97-year-old man. I don't know how old that man was. He was old and gross. And the fact that like she was the only one to bear a son, I think it's so in this kind of era is very powerful. So that gives her a lot of power. I love that the show is showcasing how much power each of these women are wielding in spaces where men think they are not, you know, except for Toranaga, because he is aware of Mariko's power and influence, because that's why he's keeping her close to. Well, we talk about their conversation later, because there's some reveals there that changes the entire trajectory of Mariko. But I do want to talk about a second female perspective that we get in this episode, Kiku. We get because of the landslide, the white boy saves Toranaga once again. He gets a prize because he keeps asking for his men in the ships, and Toranaga's like, nah, get a whore. So he was like, you know, accompanying him, and we're all like, what is going on? What is going to happen here? We were all four were like tense, like what was going to happen? Are we about to see a Japanese threesome? Like what is going on here? It did not happen. But it was very intense. The chemistry and the emotions that were spilling out in the scene where Kiku, they're laughing because I'm, you know,
No, you're correct. You're correct.
Everything you're saying is accurate. It's the word choice.
Yeah.
Very blunt with my words. But yeah,
I'm about to mute some people.
I love the scene where like you know, Kiku's just like commanding it. She's just like, "Oh, are you gonna join us?" And like talking behind you. The looks between Blackthorn and Mariko, very intense. A lot of sexual chemistry. It was super. It was good. It's good. All good acting. And then, you know, we had a little bit of Omi or whatever his name is, mad as hell because his hooker girlfriend has to do her job. Like, bro, this is why. What is the age-old adage? Don't wife a lady of the night. Because if you can't handle her at her we're doing her job responsibilities, why even be involved with her? You know what I mean? That's so anyway, so all the boyfriends out there are mad about their girls' OnlyFans. You must accept her.
Let them know.
Not just parts of her. Anyway, yeah. This terrible.
I am so sorry, the actor. But yeah, shit happens.
But I love that scene. So let's talk about it. Let's break it down. What do you guys think?
I think you did it all, man.
To think in a more or less to say it, a brothel or in a love hotel.
Wrong person.
You guys are doing it again.
To think that in a brothel in a love hotel that like you didn't want such person to have sex with another person. We were like, no, Mariko, and you were just, hey, I would just hoping Mariko would just like hit her in the neck, just put her to sleep and whatnot, and be like, okay, just you and me, John. And the whole time I was like, I felt so bad for them to be in that position. And Kiko's giving the smooth of like, you know, the lessons of life and whatnot. I'm like, no, this is fucking awkward. But I think it does cement that as much as they at points were like, no, we got to keep it professional. We can't let nobody know whatnot. Like they can't resist. They care for each other. And yeah, it's what a way to find out. Yeah, I do have feeling for this person in a brothel. But like, hey, you know, it has to happen one way or another, I guess.
Busy.
I mean, yeah, you guys are basically saying everything I'm thinking. I mean, the situation is just weird. I don't know. Again, I want to go back to the whole nephew thing. Him getting all aggravated about his OnlyFans girlfriend kind of doing her thing. It's just like, I don't know. I did like that whole dynamic because, of course, at the end of that whole situation, we had her even go up to John and straight up say like, if you ever find yourself in need of this again, just hit my line. And of course, while she's walking away, her entire facial expression changes when she's looking at the nephew. But the thing is, like, as many Game of Thrones comparisons and whatever we're getting, I'm really nervous that the nephew might get to a breaking point, and we're going to see some craziness between him and what he might be willing to do.
Yeah.
And of course, he's already getting kind of bitched around at this point by everyone, including his uncle and all that stuff. So it's going to get to a point where I'm kind of nervous. Some of these side characters, even though they don't seem really significant, I'm waiting for them to get to a point where they're going to be. And that's where kind of the writing is it's so well handled, because it's not like these characters are just being pushed to the side. Everyone has something little happening to them that if you actually put enough time into it, they can, expand into something insane. So I'm waiting for it to be crazy. I'm waiting for some of these characters to have moments where they just kind of flip their lid. Even Toranaga's kid. Like, I mean, he thought he did something that he should be proud of, and then he ended up getting talked down to. So I'm waiting for there to be a point where he's like, I don't need him, bro. I can do this on my own. Everything is just, I don't know. It's been crazy.
Yeah. I think the way that they handled the whole setup for the brothel sequence, like, of course, the nephew having to let go of his girlfriend, Mariko's husband having to let go of her for 7 days and not knowing how John's going to handle it, not because he didn't know. I mean, I think the way that they set it all up, it was kind of just like Mariko and John were put through a lot on an emotional level, because they have to do this, because if they do it any other kind of way, it's going to look like they are together. And so they have to kind of play the role. But for John, it was interesting because for him, he was like, I didn't want to do this. I could care less. Like, you can, you can take the money and like, but she's like, no, you have to do it this way. You have to, like, people have to see you guys after the fact. And I think when they got to the moment where the girl was basically kind of telling Mariko what to say, and Mariko in her head was kind of like realizing, not like I think Ronin said, like, how much she really likes this man, but also like how much of an escape that he is, like what he kind of like represents, not just him as a person, but she has an option to be out. Like, she can actually choose to live. She can actually choose to love. She can actually choose to do something else. And for them to do that in that way without really showing any kind of explicit sex or anything, it's just masterful writing, dude. Like, there's so much sexual tension going on there without showing anything. And a lot of shows, they don't know how to do that. Like, most of the shows on Netflix, like, they'll be like, oh, sex scene here, sex scene, but there's no build, nothing really there. And in that small amount of sequence, like, we all were like, I don't know where this is going. Like, I have no idea how it's going to end. But at the end of the day, because I guess John did it. I don't really know. I'm kind of reserved with that.
Yeah, we were all like, did he actually go through with it?
I don't.
And then the more we looked at his face, it kind of looked like he did,
It
but
did look like he did, but he couldn't. He couldn't look at it any other kind of way. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, Mariko kind of looked away. The nephew was like, daggone. And it's just, everybody was sour after the fact. So, yeah.
What's fascinating, and I kind of forgot, is that as they were entering the hotel, Mariko, because the pimp was telling her, like, oh, it's the most, it's what it is. She was like, it's the best place. Madam Webber. It's the best. It's the best place. 5 stars out of 5 stars out of 5. It is hush hush. And Mariko had to be very quickly be like, John, don't fucking say anything. There's ears everywhere. It's like they can't even tell each other, like, hey, this is effed up. I don't want to do this. I love you, They couldn't even do that.
Not at all.
And it's just, I was just, oh my God. Again, what a weird circumstance. You were like, well, in the place where it goes down, it didn't go down the way we wanted it to be, but
yeah,
Lord.
Yeah, there was quite a interesting moment. I think it's because I'm I don't particularly have a ship or anything. I don't care. I'm not invested in the relationships themselves, but I am invested in Mariko, like, finding like her work, like she's just so depressed and down in the dumps. And if Blackthorn shagging a British only bathes once a week white boy gets her happy, I support it. You know, I am fully I support it.
Let
So
out your steam, homie.
Wait,
one thing, what? Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say. So hold on. So before you go down that road, don't forget your thought. Who do y'all ship? Who ships who in this? No. Bizzy. Bizzy and Ronin. Who y'all shipping?
What do you mean busy, bro? It's Ronin and you who are always like talking
I'm
about
asking
this,
both
bro.
of y'all.
Okay. I'm not afraid to say it. Fucking, I ship Mariko and Blackthorn. What's weird is that for a quick second I did think about Fuji, but I was just like, it's so effed up that within a few weeks of episodes, she lost a child. So I don't want her just romanticizing with somebody else already. She's a friend to both of them, so that'd be super fucking awkward. But yeah, Mariko. But I also echoes Vanessa's sentiments that I also want Mariko to get better mentally and whatnot. I want that to be a prosperous thing. I don't want it just to be like, okay, they fell in love with each other and that's that, and she gets better, but we don't get to see that. I'm like, no, I want to see that she gets better, she gets back on her feet, and then if there's space and John doesn't want to leave Japan anymore and he sees that there's something to be had here, something to do, then boom, there it is. I mean, we already saw them,
Yes, they have gone. They have knocked
Knocking
boots already.
I said it too. I think the thing is,
weird.
I think if you want to talk about working on themselves, at the end of the day, all these characters are messed up in the head. So it just comes down to the point where, like, I guess who's the most stable. But even then, considering that this is a really like short series, I do see if there is going to be a relationship, it's going to be John and Mariko at Endgame. But so I wouldn't mind. I'm rooting for it, but at the same time, there's so many complications, so many things that are getting in the way, and it's like I trust. We're at the point where I actually trust these writers, and there's been points in shows where I just like kind of push the romance aside because sometimes it can be just a bunch of cliches rolled into one, and then we know they eventually get together. But I'm at the point where I'm like, these dudes are gonna pull something out of a hat, and it's gonna be amazing. So I trust these dudes. But I really don't want them to overcomplicate it because it's already at that point. But like I said, if there is one that to happen, it's going to be John and Mariko. I'm not kind of rushed into the whole Fuji and John thing, even though I love her character so much. That's not something that I really want to see too much. I kind of like the fact that they can be loyal without being lovers. So I think that's dope on its own. So yeah, I guess John and Mariko. I'm gonna keep it simple.
Yeah. Cool. All right.
What about you, Sam? You asked the question. What about you,
Sam?
But
that's for real, bro. Speak up.
I think that the show is gonna last not just weeks. I think it's gonna go over for some years. I think that there's gonna be like a gap of time that's gonna happen. That we're not gonna be able to foresee where these characters are gonna go emotionally. Because a lot of them are just really starting to understand, like, okay, I can have another life, like all of them. And so, I mean, initially I was always Mariko and John. But I feel like something else is going to happen as far as like, because the way that they set up Fuji as a character who has lost everything, and she literally is just loyal to the house, loyal to John, loyal to her family. I wouldn't be surprised if she finds something there, and I wouldn't be upset for it. But it's just got to make sense from a written standpoint. The puzzle pieces aren't there yet, but I can see with some time how that would actually pull out. Because I to y'all's point, like, I don't want it to just be a cliche thing with Mariko, just like, oh, John is there. It's like I do realize, like, she's got suicidal tendencies and thoughts. Like, she has, in a lot of ways, like, has so much healing that she really needs. And like, I think John definitely broke a little bit of that shell here or there just with his presence there, but it's going to take a lot more. And I don't know what this war is going to really realistically do for her. So I don't know.
But we'll see. To my point, we actually learn a little bit more about Mariko's kind of journey. She had this idea in her head ever since her family was murdered by her father because he was forced to. She always wanted to die. She literally she would ask her husband, can I die? Can I join my family? Can I complete my duty? And he's like, no, I order you to live. So that was like a point of contention between the two. And we learn from a conversation with her and Toranaga that it was always, her dad wanted to protect her, and that it was always his, I guess, wish or to have her carry on, to finish the work that he couldn't do, or to, help out or whatever. I don't know. Basically, you're not supposed to die. You're supposed to live. And Mariko was just like, what? Pikachu shock face. And I thought that was I love that moment between them too. I think it says a lot to their relationship. I think Toranaga has so much respect for her, and she obviously has so much respect for him, and kind of views him as like a surrogate dad type sitch. And I think he views her as like a surrogate daughter. He really, really trusts her and views and respects her. And I think that conversation was necessary to put Mariko on a path of like finally healing, because I cannot imagine spending years thinking that wanting to die because you want to fulfill your family's duty and like join your family. That's like a crazy level of deep depression and suicidal ideation that is really sad. Like, it's the level of depth that it went to is crazy. So like that conversation was really, really, I think, good for her. What do you guys think of that conversation?
I mean, I want to dive into the depression thing. I mean, that thing was like that. I mean, that was brutal. And hearing that her husband was the one who kind of commanded her to live, I think kind of made things even crazier. She's in a situation where she's never been able to. I feel like she hasn't been able to make these decisions for herself. And the first time she's able to actually kind of go out there and kind of be more of herself is with John. So I kind of do understand why she's a little vulnerable over there. But I don't know. I didn't think that this show was gonna really hit me that that hard with these I guess the depression talk, because I mean it's just that they have so many topics in here, and like that was the last thing on my mind. So as soon as we start hearing about her and what she's thinking about, that was a brutal hit. So again, more props to the writers.
Well, what a good follow up to, because I remember how sad it was to when Mariko's husband hit her, and how she didn't want John to look at it that way. And it was the first time she screamed at him to like, get out, like don't look at me like this. And I was just like, oh Jesus.
Yeah.
But it explains a lot. It also explains her discipline to an extent. It explains everything. So I'm really interested to see if this theme was also tackled in the book that came out during whenever it did, the 60s, 70s, whatever. Because if it did, that is too modern for that time, and what a hell of a thing to speak about for that time that is beautiful, innocent, young, yet brutal and violent. It makes logical sense, but you would never would think that they would tackle this in a series like this. So I hope she gets better, and I hope that for the most part, story, characters, and themes and what their arcs are going through has been almost near perfect parallels, where nothing drags the other, and they're both simultaneously growing with us watching each episode. So I just hope she gets better, and it's going to be very interesting to see where she sees the heir's mom at this point.
That's a good point. As far as her depression and how they kind of approach it, like hopelessness seems like the biggest word. It's weird though, because a lot of people like they dissent and they have like these suicidal thoughts, but she's trapped. She can't even have any kind of sense of control. She can't have any kind of sense of like release or self to duty. It's like she's just stuck in hopelessness. And so it was kind of like, it was weird for me because I was like, Toranaga, why didn't you tell her sooner? Why wait until now? Because it kind of brought me back to Now this is a terrible reference. Bernard in Spider-Man, when Harry went through everything he went through, face all jacked up, lost his friend. Like Bernard knew he could have just told Harry straight up, like, "Yo,
The butler, yeah.
your dad did it to himself.
Okay.
I'm sorry, but he didn't go that route." But I do think, I mean, there's a time and place for everything. But it was kind of like she could have really used that a lot sooner, even if she couldn't have done anything about it. Like, to hear that, to understand that, she could have had a different perspective. But I mean, whenever you start talking about like depression, suicidal thoughts, and like hopelessness, I mean, that is a rough subject. That's always going to trigger me on an emotional level. And I'm immediately going to empathize, but at the same time, I'm kind of like looking at it in this kind of era. How is she really going to get any help realistically? Because even if she, happens to find a relationship with John, or happens to survive this war, like realistically, how is she going to be helped? It's just a weird time and era that it in. And so it makes the writing so much more interesting to see how they're going to actually weave her character into something more. But yeah.
I think she's clearly got an important role coming up, especially with like the last thing I wanted to talk about is the Crimson Sky, right? Crimson Sky.
That's it.
Yeah.
Dun dun dun. So we learn about Crimson Sky after they realize that like the regents are adding new members and they're about to vote him out and he's about to get impeached, which means impeachment doesn't just mean you lose your job, it means you lose your head. And that his Toranaga's sitting with his advisors and his people, and they're like, we should maybe try Crimson Sky, and they're like, what's that? And it's like this rush of like, it's a whole full frontal like assault on the entire. It basically is like a suicidal plan. It's like almost like just go for broke, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, you're dead. And he originally says he doesn't want Crimson. Oh yeah, he didn't want to be Shogun. He didn't want to do that. And then by the end, when they realize what's going on, when one of the regents gets killed by bandits, aka murdered by his fellow regents because he wasn't falling in line. When Toranaga hears the news of that, he's like, all right, Crimson Sky, activate. So that is like a whole big thing. I think we're finally getting into the war stuff. So we've built up the relationships. We've built up they finally get us invested in all of these characters. And now I feel like in the next 4 episodes, we're about to start seeing a lot of them die. What do we think about Crimson Sky? What are we anticipating? Talk to me, gentlemen.
That name sounds a little hardcore for the time. I don't know what it is, but it's badass. Got me all nervous and shit. I don't even know. Just the name alone just sounds terrifying, which I know it's supposed to be, but I'm
blood in the air.
Even though they explained what it is, I don't think that's even half of what we like. We're still not prepared. I don't even think what they told us is enough to prepare us for what we're about to see. And with everything that's happened so far, I'm expecting something huge. And I usually don't like to go into things with like high expectations. But this show has not let us down. So I'm just, I'm ready. I really am.
I just hope that, and again, different time period where we are now, where it lost of its CGI, but I would be really proud and almost throw more respect to this show if they did what they're hyping Crimson Sky to be with this big epic battle. Do it in camera. Just do it in camera. A lot of extras and just go bananas with it. Again, it's even saying the name. I always love when they cut to Toranaga's face and just be like, I don't want to go down this route, and that just throws more. Oh man, look at that, it's badass. It just throws more respect to how he so much wants to avoid going down that route. But it's just like, how much more can you take? You get an earthquake. You're getting how the lords are playing dirty now, and you're seeing how much either with your son or the people around you, or you don't know who to trust. Desperate times calls for desperate measures, and who knows? Maybe he, after that point of him saying no, we're not doing that he saw, okay, if there's another way to use this as front and use another alternative plan, I could also see that playing out because he's done that before. Mariko from the get-go was like, my lord is known for his trickeries, so he could use this as a bait play, and other lords might recognize it being Crimson Sky, and he has an ace up his sleeve. So I wouldn't be surprised if he has an ace up his sleeve, but if it is Crimson Sky, full-on Braveheart, Last Samurai, do it in camera. Do as much in camera possible, because we'll feel it. We'll feel the magnitude of it.
Yeah. For me, it's just interesting anticipation, because the truth of the matter is I've been looking. I'm really good at finding pictures that we can be able to use those points of reference. There's not a picture, there's not a behind the scenes, nothing on whatever the way that this show is going to end. And we know for a fact it's going to be a battle sequence, right? So I'm hyped to see what they're going to do with this. But I think the thing about it is I think that this was a last resort for him. I don't think he wanted this.
Oh no, he didn't, for sure.
I think that, truth be told, like, I don't think he wants to like have that much blood on his hands of like the cost of this. And if he's implementing this, he sees that there are so many other margins of error that this is the only option. And the truth of the matter is, I mean, it's probably true, because the Christians are doing their own thing and plotting. He got people within his own ranks that are plotting. His own son is plotting. People across the way are like executing themselves because they're not agreeing to just impeach him. So I think that he realizes that he's going to have to be the villain of the story, so to speak, and let the march begin, let the rumbling begin, if anybody knows that reference. But I'm terrified and excited all at the same time. From a cinematic standpoint, I think it's going to be amazing, but emotionally, I think that there's going to be a lot of casualties coming out of this, like from a lot of different relationships that we really care about in this show.
The one thing that kind of freaks me out is that if you guys keep talking about like, oh, the next few episodes are going to be like crazy, we're going to get some crazy deaths and all that stuff, but it's like, if we're going to sit here and act like the first 6 episodes were a buildup for what's to come, that's insane. Like how are we going to have this many bops and for this to just be the groundwork, if you will? Like it like I feel like the next few episodes are going to be like game changing. It's going to be insane. And no one should be sleeping on this show. 100%.
Not at all.
How much do y'all want to bet that production was like, again, figuring out the writing, characters, whatnot? We're like, okay, how about we do this? Why don't we put a maid tries to kill Toranaga in his sleep, or the engine, and we do it almost as a wonder, and we see how audience takes that assassination attempt with her going through the house. Okay, what about the son doing a 180 and just throws the cannon, and we just see what was it? How Bizzy put it, chicken arms and stuff like that, and like people be like, "Whoa!" So all right, we do those two.
Chicken wings.
Chicken wings. My bad. We see how we've done battle on the sea, or how we've seen how they handled terrain and the sea itself. So I wouldn't be surprised if they've been just laying it up, being like that. It's like, all right, we're slowly trying to get them used to be like, it's gonna be bombastic, and you're just gonna have to sit with it, and take it up if any of your favorite characters bite it.
I want to also point out that, like, we talk about build up. This show, the way it's structured, if this were like an HBO show that's like loaded and like they have like filler episodes, the first 6 episodes would literally be the first season, and then the battle and all this other stuff, Crimson Sky, would be like next season.
Next second.
So many shows do that now, and I think because this is a miniseries, they're like, everything has to happen in these 10 episodes, which would, in some other shows, it would fail. It would be pacing issue. There would be stuff going on. Like, we would be like, oh, this is going too fast, or this is going too slow. But it's not. Pacing is fantastic. We are invested in the characters. We are now understanding the lay of the land. We're actually recognizing characters better. They've done it so well to the point where it's like, now I'm like anxious about Crimson Sky. I'm like, maybe we just don't do that. Maybe we all get on a boat and sail somewhere safe. Because I like you guys now, and I don't want anyone to die. Like, I don't want this to happen. I know it's called Shogun. Now I'm like, this is silly. I'm like, it's a show called Shogun. I would rather it end with them going to brunch. I don't want them to die. I don't want them to go to war. I just want them to like live. I'm so stressed out. This is why I don't watch TV. I don't get invested in anything. Anyway, so what are our final thoughts about the episode and grade?
Again, another banger, another banger. I don't think it was as good as episode 5, but I do not want to put it down because it was still an amazing episode. So again, if this is the groundwork, then we're in for a treat for the next few episodes. It's gonna be great.
What's your rating?
I'll give it a B plus, A minus, somewhere in that area.
Okay.
I'd go B plus as well. I would go that it was a fascinating way to turn the point of view and show us the side of the heir's mother, and again being like how much I can't even imagine how much time she felt that Toranaga was spending with her son, and how from what we saw the heir has taken a liking to Toranaga. So it's going to be interesting to see how that ties in, and yeah, what Mariko John going through that's bombastic on another level, and engaged, still engaged, and I'm still keeping my bet that this might be the best show of the year.
Dang. This is still an A for me, man. The only reason why I say that is because I get so much out of it. Like I don't really have a flaw. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm comparing it to something that is like one of the best episodes of television. The last episode is one of the best that they've done yet, right? And so the show in and of itself is just amazing. But I rated it at an A for this episode. It's not an A plus, but it is an A for this episode. I think it's just the perfect foundation for the tail end of this series. I'm just really excited to see where we're going more than anything.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it. I'll keep it with my A rating. I know last one was A plus. This one's gonna be an A. It was excellent. We learned a lot more about people. I'm like still making connections. Love to see more growth for the characters, especially the focus on a lot of the female characters that have a lot of agency. The show does that so well, and I love that. And yeah, so I'm excited for the next episode. I'm terrified, actually more anxious than excited. So yeah, I give this an A. Yeah. All right, y'all. Who's ready to plug themselves? Bizzy.
All right, you can find me at Bizzy Baron everywhere. Bizzy Reactions on Instagram, and I look forward to dropping my reactions and continuing to do reviews on this channel. So yeah, check them out. Check them out. Subscribe.
You can find me at Ronin Unchained on YouTube, on the socials. It's a fascinating month for stuff we're watching and stuff that will be coming out soon. Stay tuned. Join the channel. Let's grow it out more and see where it could all go.
You can find me at Vanessa Shark on Instagram, Twitter. I have a website, vanessashark.com. You can also find my articles at multiverseofcolor.com and all my reviews at TeamJVS because I got a playlist. What up? Yeah.
You're getting really good at that.
Thanks.
All right. We're out, people. Until next time, until episode 7. We'll be back.
Filing out the top of the room. I can see the skyline. 50-mile radius on my timeline.